Hi everybody, welcome to Livewire Review. I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Matt.
And welcome to the 2024 Alfa Romeo Tonale plug-in hybrid electric vehicle Veloce.
Veloce. I didn't do the mafia thing because I thought that might be weird.
Well, without further ado, let's get into it.
This is a dramatic reenactment of when this vehicle first came into the parking lot. That green. It grew on me though. That's where I wanted to start this. This color that morphs from this dark forest green to this almost lime iridescent green. And no matter what angle I look at it, it looks a little bit different. It took me a minute, but I'm really into this color. I stared at this car for probably 2 minutes and people thought I looked weird, but that's okay. Alfa Romeo Tonale, what do we got? We've got a very unique, very forward, aggressive grille, and I absolutely love that. It really kind of hits you with exactly what you're driving. Super bright LED headlights, and a dedicated light for your turning. When you start to turn that wheel at night and you're getting a little bit of a corner, it will illuminate to the left, and I'll show you a shot here. It has a dedicated light just for that. Moving around the side here, you're getting a little bit of air kind of directing across your tires and your brakes to keep everything cool down low. These wheels, same thing. I stood here for a long time and I stared at them and I thought to myself, cool little diamond patterns in the middle that look like a flower. You got the 5 rings that work around the outside on these 20-inch alloy wheels. I was like, same thing, really cool. I really like them. It just took me a while. I don't know why this vehicle took me a long time to get on board. But again, super cool alloys down low. It lets you at every turn know exactly what you're driving, the Veloce, and it lets you know exactly where it was built, in Italy. Working along the side, I like that the body lines carry all the way down the car. Kind of gives you that swept look feel. This was just a little, Easter egg, if you will. It gives you a little indicator here for this is the side that the charging port is on. Now, me being a fairly logical human being, I thought, oh, cool, there'll be a gas pump on the other side. No, there's not. It's not that a big deal. It was just kind of funny. So yeah, if you're ever wondering, there, it's right here. That's how you charge the car. Besides that, back end, I do like the dynamic sweep in the brake lights and the Unilight that runs kind of coast to coast. And of course, this exhaust, it's funny to talk about a plug-in electric vehicle that it's going to have a really cool exhaust note, but this thing with the dual pipes down low, I like how they kind of punch out of the bumper like that, and it does have a really awesome, unique note. Now, to talk about the back end, I'm actually going to turn it over to Jeremy because he spent some time with this thing and in this trunk, so let's see what he has to say.
So I'm at the back end of the Tonale plug-in hybrid right now. We're going to take a look at the storage space in the back. When you have the seats up, you get 648 liters of storage space. Now, there are a couple of party tricks here. If you pick up this parcel shelf, there's actually a little latch there that allows this panel to stay up so you can easily get your stuff in and out. Now, that being said, despite the fact it has that much storage space, 600 plus liters of space, I've never really liked how these were set up. As you can see, the panels here are directly flush with the sides here, not with the side of the vehicle over here. If this was an import product, let's say a Japanese product, you would actually see that there would be a much larger space in the back end. I actually found it a little bit small for our packages that we were traveling over the week. I did load up some stuff in this vehicle while I had it on loan. And now we're going to take a look at the seats down. You get 1,430 liters of storage space with the seats folded down. Now, it's still not the biggest trunk in there, but at least it does open up a bit as you get to the doors. And you can see here a little bit what I mean by the difference. You can see these panels coming out and just cutting into that storage space in the back. Now, it is a short vehicle too, so even 5-foot pipes were what I had to put in here. You can't put your 8-footers in this vehicle. They would have to come out the trunk. So just keep that in mind when it comes to the storage space on the Tonale.
So I'm here in the back seat of the Tonale now, and I should mention off the hop that I like to lie and say I'm 6 foot, but I'm actually 5'11 and a half. I've got a ton of headroom. There's lots of space going on above my head, which is great. This seat here is in Jeremy's driving position, and I am just skinning the seat. Not like painfully, not uncomfortably at all, but just where I would sit to be comfortable. What else have I got going on back here? Not a whole heck of a lot. And I mean, that's kind of to be expected in this segment of vehicle. I've got a USB-A and a USB-C port. I got a vent to direct airflow, power window, and that's about it. Oh, I got cup holders. Sweet, I got cup holders, but that's about it. Fairly basic back seat, but also fairly comfortable. I'm not cramped. I could sit in here for a while. And just to show you the size back here, so this is a rear-facing child seat. You've still got a good amount of space between that and the seat in front, so your passenger wouldn't be too cramped if you did have a baby seat set up like that in here.
I'm here at the back end of the Alfa Romeo Tonale now, and it's a very interesting setup back here for a plug-in hybrid. They get their all-wheel drive setup by having a completely separate electric motor on the rear wheels. And it's using just a regular multi-link suspension back here, nothing too crazy. But what is interesting is obviously no drive shaft to the back and is completely independent. This is a 90 kilowatt rear motor. So when we get up to the front of the car, you're actually going to find that there is no motor up front. This is the one that drives the vehicle. So when you're in plug-in hybrid mode, you only have rear wheel drive unless the engine has to turn on. So I find that a really interesting setup. If I was to design a plug-in hybrid, this is actually how I would have designed it. I thought of this when I was a kid. I was a bit of a nerd when it came to cars when I was a kid, and I've always dreamed of a setup like this, where one set of wheels was on an electric motor and one set was just on the gas drivetrain. Well, that's what we have here today. So enough about the back end, let's go take a look at the front.
So under the hood here of the Tonale, we have a 1.3 liter 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, which makes 283 horsepower and 347 pound-feet of torque. Now, like we mentioned, under the rear of the vehicle, that's where all the electrification is. There is a motor generator up here, which is certainly a little bit of a belt assist, probably adding a little bit of horsepower, a little bit more efficiency. Those numbers aren't necessarily published, but it is in there, so there is a little bit of blended power going on in the front here. We didn't show you underneath in the front here, not yet, but that's because it's exactly like your other ICE vehicles. There's not much else going on under there. Lots of plastic shielding, a McPherson strut suspension, nothing crazy. All the interesting stuff is up here. One thing I found a little odd from a technician standpoint on this vehicle, I've got my different coolant loops here, which is great, except I'm running hoses from here at the front of the vehicle down under the body, fairly exposed, all the way to the back, instead of maybe running an auxiliary system. But neither here nor there. That's how Alfa Romeo has chosen to do it. I think it's a little bit convoluted, but again, just my opinion. I think the more important thing now is we're gonna hop in and we're gonna go for a drive. So I had you there for a second. We are gonna show you underneath. But like I said, big old plastic shield, not much to see, but there is no electric motor up here. It is just the gas drive frame, like I mentioned up top. Like I said, control arm, ball joint, nothing crazy, McPherson strut. You do get these large quad piston Brembo style brakes, which is really nice. Besides that, everything else in the front end here is exactly what you're familiar with and exactly what I expected for a vehicle like this. And it's gonna handle awesome. So why don't we get out there on the road? Alrighty, so we're in the Tonale now and we are going to go for a drive.
Yeah, so fun fact up front, this one actually comes with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, just like most other cars do. And it comes with wireless. So every single time I get in this vehicle, the Android Auto is hooked up. What I found kind of interesting though is that it doesn't actually work as well as what came in the vehicle. And it's rare for me to say that because most of the time I look at the navigation in a car and I'm like, it's not going to work as well. I tried to use the voice recognition to enter a couple of addresses this week and just no go. It wouldn't work on Android Auto. I went over to the Alfa Romeo nav and it picked up my voice right away and took me where I needed to go. It has your traffic lines built into it already, which I believe it uses over HD radio or some other connected service through Alfa Romeo. And yeah, it works. It works really well. Interesting note, it actually shows charging stations on the map and it shows gas stations on the map. And what was really interesting is it showed the price of gas at most of the gas stations I went by.
Damn, so it's smart on top of everything else.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. Sorry, just while you were talking there, I decided to slap one of these paddle shifts. So, I mean, I guess I'm not surprised, but it immediately had to turn the engine on to give me the engine braking in order to accomplish a manual shift. And it was one of those like, I wonder if this will just do a regen. So for anybody wondering, it does not. It will not activate a forced regen mode or anything of that nature. It just fires up the ICE and then uses the gear transmission to slow you down.
Yeah, which is just a straight ASIN 6-speed automatic transmission, which is pretty interesting actually.
I don't mind that. I mean, when I read it, I thought to myself, not a CVT? That's cool. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, you hear horror stories, right? You hear horror stories about the unreliability. I'm not saying that's happening here. I'm just simply saying in the overall about CVT transmissions. Oh, I said it. But it's one of those things. It's like, if I can get a regular gear transmission, that just somehow feels comfier to me. You know, paired with this electric drivetrain is always nice too. But I don't know. It's a nostalgic thing, I dare say. I feel like CVT is just going to die on me that much faster.
Yeah, and there's no sandwich motor in between the engine and transmission, so it's a very basic, off-the-shelf setup that they can throw in any car. Very small displacement turbo engine, and I love how they work together. It's not a connected all-wheel drive system, so you do get a little bit of losses with that because it has to transfer power from one to the other. So it's definitely not an off-road vehicle. This is a sport-tuned vehicle.
Yep.
It has a sport-tuned exhaust system, which actually has a really nice sound to it.
It does, and we'll kick that into dynamic mode in a minute, and we'll listen to it.
Yeah, right now we're in advanced efficiency mode. In Alfa Romeo's nomenclature, they have D and A.
Yep.
Dynamic, natural, and advanced efficiency. There's also a mode for traction control off, and they have 2 settings for the suspension system. Okay, so we're driving along in advanced efficiency mode. That is the mode you have to be in to drive in full electric. Now, you're not going to get heat down to say -15 in this vehicle without the engine on. It is going to have to fire that up. But once everything is warmed up, it will allow the engine to turn off and use up that electric power. It's just hopefully you have a longer drive so you have the chance to use that all up. In normal driving, I have found with me driving, I got about 48 kilometers before the battery ran out and the engine had to fire up.
And the 48 is what it's rated for.
Yeah,
right?
about 50 kilometers.
Yeah,
that's just what it's rated
it's showing 50, and it's funny because the battery gauge is telling me that I'm at 3/4, but it's saying I can go 50K, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Have we had it at 100%? Does it push over that number? Estimated?
That's what I mean. That was 100%. I got 48 kilometers because at the very end of the drive, I was on the highway, so it used it up quite a bit faster.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a corner here in a second, and it's a little bit wet out, but I don't want to get crazy. But let's go to that dynamic mode, shall
And
we?
right away, that engine fired up when you change modes because it's ready for some sporty driving.
So, yeah, we're going to do this without getting too crazy here. Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, because I can tell you, a 90 kilowatt rear motor with this much weight, honestly, it's not enough. You want some sporty driving, you got to get both drivetrains involved. And that's where you get that combined figure with 285 horsepower, 347 foot-pounds of torque.
I mean, that pulled like hell. Holy cow. We're coming up that hill. I mean, that's probably a 15% grade maybe with a good S-bend in it. That just did not stop pulling. And I was kind of expecting it to slide a little bit at the bottom. A little bit of sand, a little bit of wet, but no, that was solid. That was absolutely solid. Holy cow.
Yeah, now you can definitely feel the bumps in the road with that active suspension on.
Yes, in the dynamic mode, you felt it stiffen up almost instantly. And I mean, these tires are huge too, right? You got a 20-inch wheel. I think it was a 245. I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but
yeah, we'll put the figure up on the screen.
Yeah, it was a very wide tire, and so it instantly translated into, oh, these wheels are pretty heavy. But oh my goodness, yeah, no, it just sticks. It just sticks. Huh.
Yeah. And I really love how that motor and the engine pairs together. You can actually see it on the graph on the screen. You can see the engine power goes up, the electric power goes up, and as it hits the torque band of the engine, it scales back, and as it shifts gears, you actually see them change place. So the electric motor makes up for any of the lag in the turbo, then the engine catches up, and they just play this game of cat and mouse.
Hybrid, electric, and turbo are they're a match made in heaven, I dare say. And a lot of guys haven't really caught on to this yet, but it's the electric takes the lag out of the turbo, and then just when the turbo's coming on, the electric is losing that torque band. It's perfect.
Yep.
But again, we got some fun corners here, so
there we go. They've taxed the engine a little bit there.
I love that exhaust
But
note.
then the electric motor just picks up where it left off, right? Oh, there you go. And you got your downshifts, crift.
Yeah, it won't let me downshift too aggressively. But that was still fun.
Yeah. So they added some fun to the Tonale,
They
right?
did. They did indeed. My goodness. Yeah, no, it would certainly not let me do an aggressive downshift because I commanded 2 there and it only gave me 1. I think I got it down into 3rd right before that bend just to kind of slow me down and then pull me out. But a little bit of understeer, a little,
Yeah, well,
there.
there is a bit of weight, right?
There
It's
is a
got
bit of
8-bar
weight.
battery in the middle. It's got 2 drivetrains, essentially.
Yeah.
But the simplicity of engineering is, I think, my favorite part. I don't see other car companies where they've split up the drivetrains. Other ones on the market, they have the sandwich motor up front and they have the electric motor on the back. That's Toyota style.
Yeah.
And then Hyundai style is where they have everything's at the front with the sandwich motor at the front, and they still have a transfer case and a drive shaft running into the back. Now, I'm not a fan of that system. I like this. I love the simplicity of engineering. There's no differential fluid that you're going to have to change, like for a transfer case. You're only going to have to change the drive fluid in the rear, and then any of your normal ICE maintenance up front. I really like it.
It's smart. It's, well, like you said, simplicity. It's simple. There we go. Now, just for argument's sake here, I am going to put it in the N mode, natural. I'm curious. It's the only mode I haven't driven in yet, and I just want to see how much it cycles between electric and gas, because that's always one of those things with plug-ins. When I hear plug-in, I think, oh, it's just an EV until the battery runs out. Well, every brand does it a little different. You know, in a Hyundai product, if it's wintertime, you just have a gas vehicle.
Basically.
If it's summertime, you kind of have an EV.
Yeah.
See, there was the engine. So that was very minimal torque output. I got maybe a 30% torque application, and then it brought the engine in to help, rather than just letting the electric motor do all the work.
Yeah. Now, if we go back to advanced efficiency mode, it'll go back to electric, but you have to get about half throttle. That's about all it'll let you. As soon as you get past that,
there's
it'll
half.
request the engine. So you
There's
give it for
half.
it.
There's on the floor, and there's the engine.
There you go. The engine pulls up.
Okay.
Due to high acceleration requested.
Yeah, and I guess I get that. I mean, it was going to get there. It certainly was pulling. It didn't need that boost, but I understand why it does it.
Yeah, well, think about it. They didn't give us a rating for it, but 90 kilowatts. A Hyundai Kona Electric is 150 kilowatts, and that was 200 horsepower, 294 foot-pounds of torque. So 90 kilowatts pushing whatever this weighs. I can put it up on the screen now. It's not going to move it that quickly. So I'm interested to know what the 0 to 60 times are. I'll put that up on the screen here, but that is combined with the gas engine. I can tell you with advanced efficiency mode, it's not going to have the same rating.
No, it absolutely won't, but just for fun on a 0 to 60 time. And 60.
Well, not quite. We're still getting there.
Oh, I saw the red line. Sorry. It pulled really well. And like we were saying, when the electric kind of started to fall off ever so slightly, the gas was there, the turbo had come on.
Yeah.
It pulled nicely, and it doesn't feel heavy. It doesn't feel heavy when you're driving it. Like, it does feel nimble. I do like the really tight steering response in this. And when I was downshifting back there, I should have mentioned, I like fixed paddles.
Yeah, they're very large.
I am a fan of the fixed paddle. Like, the ones that move with the wheel, I find them cumbersome. And like, not that I do it a lot, but in a situation where I've got a wheel round and I'm hand over hand, I don't want to have to think about, oh, what side is the up? You know, what side's the up on, what side's the down on. I don't want to think about it. This way, I know exactly where it is. I know what I'm going for. I just really like it.
So just talking about some of the stuff you get on the interior here. Now, it is raining today, so I'm just going to open the sunshade here, but we do get a full panoramic sunroof, and it's a powered sunshade. So it's actually a pretty nice thing. Now, it's a little far back, so when you're in the driver's seat, you can't actually see it. I found the sunroof is more of a passenger's comfort. And some of the other things you get on here is you get heated and ventilated front seats. Now that you have to pull up a menu on the infotainment screen to get it. I didn't find a dedicated button for that anywhere.
No.
And I'll bring up the sound system. It's a Harman Kardon sound system, and there's a lot of systems where it doesn't blend the sounds together really well. That is something this car does really well. So instead of having the tweeters just here in the doors, they also have tweeters up at the front that bounce the sound off the windshield. And because of that, it fills the whole room with sound. And it gives me such a great soundstage, something I have been looking for in a vehicle, and this one delivers. Along with the acoustics of the whole interior, it just sounds really good in here.
Yeah. On the driver's side of things here, you get the fully digital instrument cluster, and I do like that as I cycle through drive modes, and even when you start and stop the vehicle, you get a really cool info, like just graphics. You get the headlights kind of wash through, the taillights wash through, the different drive modes will give you color options and stuff. So it's nice to even like just have it in my peripherals. I know if I flip the switch here into another mode, okay, it's changed, because it's telling me that it's changed. You're getting a lot of good soft touch materials in here, which I like. The kind of padded doors. The seats are actually quite comfy as well. I like
sporty.
Yeah, exactly. There's
no bolstering on the sides,
but they're
very
stiff.
little, but they're stiffer than other seats.
Yeah, exactly. And they're not uncomfortable, to say stiff, but they're what I would expect for something that I plan on kind of pushing a little bit.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I really, really like, and we're gonna have to show you a shot maybe at night to kind of get the full effect, but the dashboard kind of runs coast to coast from the driver's side to the passenger side. This etched, I don't even know what you would call this, like a almost like a Mobius strip type pattern here.
Yeah.
And it is backlit, and I just think it's so sharp. And at first I thought it was just the sun on it when I first saw it, and I thought, okay, it's just a trick of my eyes. And then I actually kind of covered it and did one of these real quick, and I thought, oh no, it's actually backlit. That's really, really cool, especially at night. I don't know. I find things like that cheeky, but really nice. The last thing I really like here, physical buttons for my HVAC stuff. I don't know. Call me what you want. I like that still available to me without having to cycle through a screen. It's just a pet peeve of mine.
Yeah. Now they have interesting button placement. The cruise control is on the left side of the wheel,
yes,
which I'm still getting used to, but a lot of cars are doing it nowadays. Just muscle memory. And the volume control is actually down here next to the shifter, which I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, it's down low, and I like it. Like I was saying when we first got in and the radio came on blasting because Jeremy was having a fun drive this morning, I just kind of put my thumb on the wheel and just went quick, whoop, rolled it down, and I thought this is kind of where my hand would naturally rest, you know, when I'm doing a one-handed long drive, highway driving kind of thing, if I wasn't doing a right hand anyway. But regardless, it's in a good spot. It's nice to be like, oh, this song's great, I'm gonna crank that one up. I just might have a problem. And then I'll just turn it right back off. So it works nicely.
So, like many vehicles on the road nowadays, there is a host of safety suites in this car. You got your radar guided cruise control, you got your lane assist, you have your blind spot indicators in the mirrors, you have cross traffic alert, you have everything, and it works really well. The only thing I don't like about the cruise control is when the car moves out of your way and it wants to get up to speed, it'll just kick to full revs and get you right up to speed right away. It doesn't like ease into it nicely.
No.
So it gets kind of aggressive, fires the engine up and takes you off. But outside of that, it all seems to work really well. So I think we've covered all the stuff on the interior. We've covered the suspension. The suspension is fantastic in this car. Despite the fact that it is sport tuned, every time you go over a bump, it actually seems to be fairly well damped. Washboard sections of the road feel good. It's just a really good package.
Yeah.
There's just something about this car where they blended everything together really well, and the software engineers had that fun where they blended the electric motor with the gas drivetrain.
Yeah. I like under the hood, you've got the large starter generator, motor generator there, the belt-driven one. It's very, the actual start-stops of the engine are very smooth. Like when the engine comes on, there's been a few instances where I've actually had to see the needle go, oh yeah, I'm on now. Because I didn't feel it. I heard it, because like I said, this thing's got a wicked exhaust note. But yeah, the exhaust note's really cool, and that's the only other thing that lets me know that the engine's on. But yeah, overall, like Jeremy was just saying, it's just, I could drive this every day. Yeah. I don't know if I'm, necessarily going to run out and join fan clubs and forums about it, but it's a nice car.
Yeah, and it certainly stands out in that green color.
I can't get over the green. I thought it was terrible, and then I thought it was amazing, and then I thought, do I really like it? And then I said, yeah, I like it. I'm looking at it and I like it.
Yeah.
It's a very weird color. Go look at it. Go look at it in person. Don't just look at it online, because it doesn't do it justice.
No, it doesn't. It's got a really nice pop to it in real life. Even here on the camera, it did not translate it to the screen very well. No. There's no light. In every light, it's different. Yeah. It's raining and gray right now. It looks different than it did this morning when it was sunny. It's such a weird color, but I really like it. Yeah. And green vehicle, green color, it just goes together, right?
Exactly. All right. Well, I think that's about it for this one. Let's let's park her back in the shop here, and we'll have we'll give you a couple more thoughts on this thing.
Yeah.
So we're coming to the end of this one, guys. It's an interesting product, and Jeremy spent a lot of time with it. I spent a little bit of time with it. I think for me, where this one fits is very simple. It's a great car, great SUV, CUV, pardon me, for what it is. It's just a little pricey for the size. I wish it was a little more efficient, but I would still enjoy driving this every day.
Yeah, being an Alfa Romeo, they're really looking for that sporty character to it. And what's interesting is the whole package overall when you look at this car. The fact that it doesn't have any connected axles on it. It drives from the rear for electric. It drives from the front for the gas, but then it puts it both together when you're in that dynamic mode.
Yeah.
And it's got that really nice suspension with its 2-mode setup. I love the ride in this thing. I was able to get about 48 kilometers worth of range out of this thing. So it does what it promises. A little small for my liking, but it does what it promises. And what's nice is the whole package actually works really well together. The suspension feels really good. Just driving the car every day feels pretty good. The acoustics in the car are really good. And that sound system just blends everything together. So having those 3 things blend together and the driving dynamics of it, when you look at it as the whole product, it really does work.
Yeah, so it works.
Yeah.
There we go. Is that it?
Yeah,
the
I guess
Tonale,
that's it.
The Tonale, it works.
It works. Well, if you like this video, leave us a comment as always. I read them all. And thank you for watching, and think about liking or subscribing to the channel.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.